Hello everyone, welcome back, and again I'll be talking about what I've been playing recently, and as always I'd love to hear in the comments what you've been enjoying. Always interesting to see all the cool games that are out there and what you're expecting to come out this summer, especially because there's a lot of great stuff coming within the next couple of months. But without further ado, Lost Judgment. If you've been watching my videos, I'm now caught up with the Yakuza franchise, waiting to see what's coming next, and Lost Judgment was an amazing way to end the series for now. It was incredible. I really liked the first game, but this hit home for me. Lost Judgment is spectacular and is honestly one of the best games in the franchise. And I'll be talking about the entire franchise in the next video, going through my entire experience. Lost Judgment, you return to Yagami and his detective agency, and at first he's contacted by some old friends from the first game, some really great characters who are vastly expanded upon this one. They've made their own detective agency, and you are invited along to help with what is, of course, seemingly a interesting but somewhat simple case of a rash of bullying incidents at a high school. And here comes one of the first things that's really great about this. You are in Kamurocho, and then also the second city that you're in is the portion of Yokohama that was introduced in Like a Dragon. And everything is there, and it's fantastic and just as cool as it was in that game. Plus, it's expanded with this new high school set, which is fantastic. It's really well done, well detailed. It is massive. It feels realistic. Going through it, I felt instantly. It couldn't help but the comparison for this type of like an action RPG, and then something like Persona, especially Persona like 4 and 5 in the high school setting in the Japanese high school, and it has that somewhat a similar vibe, but this was done 10 times better with the high school itself as far as the physical building and exploring it and how it felt, and then the interaction with the students, because of course this incident then becomes, you can then become embroiled in this much larger issue and this ever-growing mysterious twist and turn web of a series of murder mysteries and cover-ups and schemes, all involving the concept of the culture of bullies, especially with teenagers, and how the school system, and then to a further extent the legal system, kind of sweeps that under the rug, and how much of a big cultural issue it is. And it explores those themes in a very interesting and mature way, which is one of the highlights for the Judgment games in particular, is the way they handle the storytelling. It feels much more serious and grounded and doesn't seem as silly and hyperbolized. It's something that, taken in a different context, you could take the same storyline and it would be a really good TV crime drama like miniseries. It has that vibe to it, and that's one of the elements that I think is strongest in Lost Judgment. For me, it is quite possibly the best writing in the entire franchise. Just fantastic, and it struck me emotionally. I was really involved with characters, and there's someone who gets murdered throughout there's lots of murders, but there's one particular person who's murdered throughout the context of the story that I really felt the impact of that moment much more so than in a lot of other video games. It really just, the writing and the directing of any of the narrative scenes and the characters themselves, voice acting, all those played together to really create a remarkable story experience. Like, that was really the highlight for me with that game. Not to say gameplay was bad or anything. It was fantastic. It was a lot like the first game. There are a few changes, a few things that I really like that were added to it. There are all these detective elements. Watch me talk about the first game. I really hoped that more of the legal aspects were expanded upon, and the detective aspects, and to some extent they were. I still think they could go further into the court case stuff, get a little bit like Ace Attorney kind of feel in there, a little bit more of the courtroom action. I still like the way it's presented, but I feel like there could be a little more. But I do like what they did with all the detective stuff. As far as the number of tools that you have at your disposal, there's a lot more gadgets and gimmicks, and you spend a lot more time doing some real detecting, and I think that like a third game could really even perfect that and bring it further. There's a little bit less use of the drone and the lock picking, those are definitely a little bit, underutilized in here, but there are other things that are utilized a lot more. And this also adds a lot of parkour and kind of climbing through the environments. That part wasn't always quite perfect. That part could be improved, but it was still fun. And there were some cases, especially in one incident fairly early on with the high school, where a lot of these sneaking around and the parkour elements really were fun and had some ties to the narrative. It wasn't just there to be there. It actually kind of made sense. So a lot of stuff was still really, really done well. And anything in here that wasn't 100%, perfect is still really, really good and could be either expanded upon or improved. And little things that are just kind of fun. There's an addition of you can ride a skateboard in here, and there's different skateboards you can get throughout the two different cities, and that's just kind of a fun extra little way of exploring these now familiar environments, a new way of kind of looking at it. Really, really cool. And it has a ton of extra content, and there are the fun mini games. There's a fun dancing mini game that is it's somewhat, it controls differently, but it's reminiscent of like Five playing with Haruka. But little like fun. The sense of humor is still there, even though the main narrative is much more serious and very focused on that. And I really like that. And there are other really great things too, where not really to spoil anything, but you do become more active within the high school environment, and you find a way to be involved with a high school mystery club. And that had, again, just a plethora of really interesting, sometimes really funny side stories and mysteries with that, and then even within the community, some things that are on the more simple, grounded side, like a little optional side quest where some students come back to the high school and they want to dig up their time capsule, but there's a mix-up and they find a different time capsule. Someone else had already taken theirs, and this little high school reunion type element. Those little fun stories just add to the character of the environment that you're in, and then more silly ones like looking for UFOs and whatever. There's a good variety in here of everything you're looking for. And if you've played something like a dragon, it's fun also to see a different side, a different perspective of that environment, as well as being in Kamurocho and again exploring familiar territory for many, many years. Fantastic game, again, just incredible. I love the gameplay. I enjoy. They've handled really, really well in this one 3 fighting styles, 2 from the first one, the crane and the tiger, and then like a snake one. And again, they're all balanced to where you really do want to use one of the 3 in any given particular situation, whether it's one-on-one with a boss, depending on what that boss's style even is, the type of people that you're fighting, if you're fighting a large group. It's really cool. They each actually balance each other out, and there's a reason to switch through the different fighting styles. And then, of course, you're also going to find one that is a personal favorite that you're probably going to use more often. I really like this third new one, this like snake style that he came up with, and I just love the way that feels, and I love a lot of the parrying and the grabbing, and just I like the way that worked. So fantastic. This was an amazing game. I'm really happy that the series ended on a high note for me, and I'm excited to see what's coming next. I really think that the next one we're probably going to see, at the time of filming this, they haven't announced anything officially. I'm pretty sure the next one we're going to see is Like a Dragon 2, whatever they're going to call it, a sequel to that. I'm hoping that the next thing on deck is a Judgment 3, and then who knows what the third one is. But yeah, I'm very excited for the future of the franchise. They found a way to make it still feel fresh and original, and at the same time still have this comforting, nostalgic feeling by having these familiar environments, but having a totally different take, whether it's the more humorous, very different style of Like a Dragon, or the even more serious, dramatic side of the Judgment games, adding a different look with being on the side of the law and having the detective elements. And I think those, again, could be expanded upon even further in a third one and just be great. So look forward to the next video, because I'm going to talk about my entire journey with this franchise over the past, not even a year. I went through these really quick because my deadline was Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I want to finish the franchise and be caught up to where it's at, and managed to do that.